Hi, welcome back to Good Neighbors Getting It Done in Western New York. I'm Kathleen King, and this is the second part of the Lockport Bipartisan Town Hall that we had with Jim King, who's a Republican from Owego, and Aaron Geese, who is a Democrat from Olean. They are both running to defeat Nick Langworthy and take the congressional seat for the 23rd District. We had a great time. The first part was moderated by Jenn Borgioli of Braver Angels and was dedicated a little bit more to how the two men would govern in the big district. This one is questions from the audience. I moderate it and basically read questions that the audience uh, handed in, as well as we have some, spontaneous questions at the end, and an appearance from Alyssa Ellman, who is running for Congress in the 24th district, which was a nice surprise. So I hope you enjoy it. I did put in some slides from the slideshow that was running at the town hall. I thought you might enjoy it if you're watching. And hopefully we will have a lot more of these. And please let me know if you have any constructive criticism. There's certainly some things we will do differently. It's always a learning curve. And I did put so that you can make comments if you wish. All right, happy holidays, everybody. Bye.
So I'm going to just read off some of the questions, and if it was your question and you want to have a follow up, brief follow up, then let me know. We could just stand up or something. I'm very concerned about how the current administration is walking away from the Paris Accord and the climate policy. Great Lakes and our farming economy will be affected by climate change. And what is your stance, Jim?
Climate change is real, and it is affecting all of us. The great, we have a camp in the Adirondacks, and we get the Canadian news as well as the U.S. news, and it's appalling in terms of the current stance of the United States in our current administration regarding being climate deniers, climate change deniers, in effect, and it's affecting not only the water issues, which we see everywhere, but it's affecting crops, and it's affecting sea level rise, and we're going to be seeing some very horrible things in the next couple of decades. Just for sea level rise in terms of population migration, because they have to. You can't build dikes that are high enough.
Does that mean you want to work with the rest of the world on climate change?
Absolutely. We've got a good follow up. The answer is yes. We should be leaders in this environment, in this thing. And that means alternative energy in all its forms. It's not just wind and solar. It's geothermal. It's nuclear. It's whatever we got to do. And from my standpoint, one of the things I would not likely to happen, but would be very desirable, is for a Manhattan-like project to make fusion work.
Yeah.
We've proven it. The physics is proven. It's the engineering that has to be done. And it's tough engineering.
And the next question I'm going to give to Aaron was actually similarly, how would you protect the environment from the current roll tax?
You have to figure out how to make people's lives better and sustainable, right? And the good news is there's a lot of wins there. Things that we can do to improve the watershed, to improve crop yields, to increase shade in urban areas, right? To reduce stormwater. Those things improve people's lives and they improve the climate. Moving to more distributed energy, which is not always green, but is often green, gives people more control over how much they pay for their energy, right? As opposed to what they call reticulated sources, fossil fuels that just come from one big provider and go to one big factory to generate a whole lot of electricity for everybody. You can give people the ability to have their lives improved with cleaner water, with healthier food that grows closer to where they live, and with energy that actually benefits them as well as the climate, then we will see some of these cycles flip. Okay. The reason that's not happening right now is because there is a lot of money on the other side trying to keep us doing what we've been doing.
So the next question I'm going to ask the same to both of you, and that is, what's your biggest priority on day one, besides finding the bathroom?
So I answer that first?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, if the Supreme Court hasn't done it already, we got to revoke the tariff. The IEEPA authorization, we can revoke it day one. We got to do that. That's Congress's job. He's taking it away. We can do it with a vote. We have to do it on day one.
I think it's reclaiming all of Congress's authorities. It's not just tariffs or taxes. It has to do with war making. It has to do with all those other things. And it may turn out to be the only way we're going to get it done is through impeaching people that won't do it.
All right, the next question is about AI, and it's a multiple point. So what do you think about the effect of AI on jobs, and where do you think that will go?
It's a conundrum. We don't know yet. And it depends on, where how it gets used in the world today. In general, I'm fearful that we are not prepared for the massive change in job descriptions that are going to happen. We may not lose. We're going to lose a lot of jobs. The question is, we're also going to gain a lot of jobs. The question is, can we make that transition from one to the other? And that takes planning, and it takes training, and it takes it's going to take government interaction to that.
And
Yes.
Aaron, to you, I'm going to ask, how about AI and the spread of misinformation?
Am I for it or against
Exactly.
it? Yeah, okay. So our government, unlike some other governments of advanced countries, has generally refused to regulate misinformation and privacy, generally try to improve people's lives in the online space. It is high time that we reversed ourselves on that. I think part of the reason the American people have been a little bit iffy on whether they want us to do that is that they don't trust Congress to do it. So we need to change the composition of Congress. We need more people that have ethical abilities. Fewer people that are not just lawyers that sort of throw up their hand and say, "It's not my job." But it's very clear that algorithmic interactions online are driving misinformation, and that is not something that is happening as an accident. It is something that is being caused by the people that run the big tech companies and the bad actors that they enable inside and outside the country. And if we are a democracy, that should be something that the American people can push back on hard, and they've done it elsewhere in the world, and we should. AI is simply a more powerful tool to continue those same kinds of divisive, anti-community tactics, and we have to push back on that as well.
Going to stick with AI, and the question is about copyright infringement.
It's wrong. There's a lot of things wrong with our not just copyrights, but intellectual property law. For one thing, the big corporations with a lot of influence have caused and probably a much too long extension of intellectual property rights. We've gone from 17 years to 25 years to 50 years. That's got to be brought back to something that's reasonable so that people can actually be using it. But that doesn't answer your question. The real question in terms of AI and copyright infringement, it's wrong. It should be against the law. It's just wrong.
Aaron, if all members of the House and Senate take an oath to uphold the Constitution, why haven't the majority stood up to that oath and done the right thing? Why do you think that's happening?
Yeah. So I'm curious what the question asker's particular red line was. But the reason I'm curious is that there are so many that we could draw, right? Is it the illegal use of the military? Is it many unconstitutional executive orders? What is it? We don't. Is it the pardons? Well, the pardons are in the Constitution, unfortunately. But some agrees. Anyway, we don't know. Why haven't they stood up? That's the question. Misaligned incentives. Yeah. So their financial livelihood, their election, and I am convinced some of them believe their life and perhaps the safety of their family depends on not standing up and saying something. And that is a real shame, isn't it? And in order to push back, we're going to have to flip Congress, I believe. That's step one. And we're also going to have to introduce some accountability for people who have failed to stand up and be courageous through things like, an oversight committee, right? Well, don't we wish the oversight committee was doing its job right now? Do you know who's on the oversight committee? Nick Langworthy. Yes. And he uses that position to block real accountability for the executive branch and for Congress and to run investigations of Joe Biden's auto pen, which is what he's been doing.
Let me take a whack at that one too.
Why do you think?
I'm in total agreement. People are afraid, and they don't see an alternative. There's nobody in Congress today that can't walk away from their job, except for maybe Nick, because he is a totally career politician. But it's against your morals or ethics, and they're slightly different. Walk away.
Often, people walking away, that's when they speak out, when they decide they're going to retire. Yeah.
And we're starting to see a little bit of that. Refreshing. All right, now let's get into the nitty gritty of healthcare. Fix it. How are you going to do it?
Okay. So I think there's three things that we need to be shooting for with our healthcare system. Healthcare needs to be stable, it needs to be affordable, and it needs to be accessible. All three of those things are threatened in our district right now. They were under threat before, but now blinking red light everywhere, right? My belief is that we need to move towards universal health care in this country. Yeah. But I don't think that you can simply nationalize what we have now, because what we have now is actively falling apart, right? And there are deficit concerns, but we know that if we did it right, it would not just be better, it would be cheaper. So how do we do that? I think we need reform in the public sector. I think we need to shore up and strengthen the ACA, not get rid of it. And I also think we need reform in the private sector, as people will often tell you, there are too many levels of middlemen. There are too many people that get a cut of your healthcare before it actually gets to your provider. Your provider, for the most part, is not getting rich off you. It is the people in between you and your provider that are. And that also means, and Jim probably appreciates this, that we don't have a functioning market in healthcare at all. You can't shop. There's no price transparency. Nobody knows what the cost of anything is, even of the people that are selling it, right? So if we're expecting capitalism to solve this problem, that's not going to work out for us. So yeah, I would say public-private reform towards those three planks that ultimately will allow us to universalize healthcare.
How about you, Jim?
Well, I mean, as a volunteer EMS provider, I see way too many people saying that they don't want to go to the hospital. They should go to the hospital. They're having a heart attack. They've broken a leg. They're some sort of a TIA, whatever. They should be in the hospital, not just the ER. They should be in the hospital, and they won't go. They don't want to go. They have to twist their arm because they can't afford it. The ones that people with insurance, and I'm talking about both ends, the people on Medicaid and Medicare and the people whose workplace is providing good insurance, they'll go. But the people in between are afraid that they're going to walk out of the hospital bankrupt with good cause. Mm-hmm. That's got to change. And I'm a single payer system has to happen. And whether it's the government run or some other conglomerate of insurance stuff, we have to simplify access in all its form. The current system is really broken, and the only way around that is to make it simple and get rid of the middleman. I mean, when you got to go, when your doctor or your surgeon has to go through two levels of well, first you got to do PT, and then you got to do injection shots, and then you got to do something else before we can get to the operation we need. it's wrong. Because the insurance companies say no, and they like to have the benefit of your money until the very last minute, and it's gotta change. Too many middlemen.
So currently we respond and the divisions are often about fear and sometimes fabricated crises, but also real crises. And I think the questioner, what they want to know is, do you have experience with talking to people about crises and getting them through a crisis? Can you give an example of a crisis in which you were helpful?
Sure. As a teacher, the students have crisis of one kind or another, right? So I had a student whose father died quite unexpectedly last week. And so, he emails me in a panic and says, I'm going back to Buffalo, I don't know what to do, and they'll communicate erratically, right? They'll respond or not respond. And what you have to do in all cases is you have to listen, you have to be respectful, you have to give them simple steps to follow. And who are not having a crisis, you have to follow through. Right? And most of the time, that works out. Right. But not every crisis is a crisis that you're going to be able to solve. So when you say, be able to talk someone through a crisis, that also depends on what's going on with them.
What do you do?
Yeah, more than once.
Sure, yes.
Yeah. I described the crisis earlier in terms of people who won't go to the hospital because they should go to the hospital. They're in dire need of going to the hospital, and that's a job of informing, cajoling, taking responsibility for, making it easy for them to go. That's just an alternative way of describing exactly what you just described, Jan, which is you have to walk people through it, make them understand what's going on in terms of the medical emergency, and then helping them get through it. And sometimes that means taking care of their cat. I mean, we'll do that. Okay. I left one of my associates behind to babysit. I mean, we know how to do that. It does happen.
The next question is about representation and how each representative has to represent 750,000 voters. And instead of gerrymandering, this is the question itself. Instead of gerrymandering, should congressional districts be required to follow county town lines as much as possible? Or how would you handle this? Would be a great idea.
So I agree. It makes no sense for Owego and Olean and Lockport to be in the same congressional district, but for the rest of Lockport to be in a different congressional district. How many knew that until 1929, congressional districts were proportional and each district had 250,000 constituents? Yeah, a few of you did. I'm not surprised in this room. I think we should probably look at going back to that. So if we did that now, you would have 1,300 or so people in Congress. Big deal. If we can demolish the East Wing without a building permit, we can figure out a way to expand the Capitol, I think. And if we did that, then we could have districts across the country, not just in Western New York, that were culturally cohesive. Mm-hmm. Now, whether they follow town and county lines, I don't know. It would be a bear of a law to write. But they would be much harder to gerrymander.
How about you, Jim?
Not a bad idea. Okay. I go with the math. If it has to be proportional, if the number in Congress is capped, then we should be writing a federal law that deals with federal elections that says districts have to be compact. They should, where possible, follow municipal boundaries, and that in itself will tend to coalesce like-minded people, because neighborhoods tend to be like-minded.
I'm going to ask you the next question. A fair amount of common sense regulation have been rolled back. Which ones would you like to reinstate?
Well, right off the bat, right off the bat, the environmental ones, which includes, all the the car, the automobile or transportation initiatives and that sort of thing. The way we lease government property. So that's probably the next one that has to come. The federal government owns a lot of land. We own a lot of land, and a lot of that has minerals under it, and it also has desirable building lots on it. And the government is supposed to look at the highest and best use of that stuff, and it's supposed to get a fair price for any of the minerals that are under it. We don't. That's the simple answer.
And then Aaron, how are you going to appeal to Republicans in the 23rd?
Trump was right about one of the most important elements of his first campaign, which was working people and rural people have been left behind in this country for like 70 years. We have walked into this economy where everybody in rural America is steadily getting poorer and more desperate while the Dow goes up, the K-shaped economy. And that is evil. So I am interested in solving that problem. And how do we solve that problem? Really, as people of good faith, how do we solve that problem of rising inequality and jobs going away and loss of a sense of place, everything being replaced with sort of consumer sameness, this world of big box stores everywhere. We have gotten used to the government being an engine for subsidizing big business and heavy industry and the billionaires that own those businesses and industries. That's what government is there for, corporate welfare. That is the opposite of what government should be doing. Government should be investing in people like the people in this room, in places like this place. If we do well, they will do well. Don't worry about them. They're going to be fine. But my whole emphasis as a representative, were I to be elected, would be looking for what is working at the local level and boosting that.
And Jim?
Can I take a whack at that too? And I can't disagree because I think opportunity, which is the word I used earlier in my introduction, is what we need, and that's what you're really talking about. What can government do to provide opportunities for people to succeed and to do better, to make the economy better, to make your community better, to bring a community together? We're too separate. We got to find ways to coalesce in terms around common themes.
Do you believe in trickle-down economics?
No. No, my wife's holding a sign out there. Speak up. No.
All right, this is the last question. It's for both of you. As a representative of the district, how would benefiting the country also benefit this district?
Yeah, so the affordability stuff would all help, right? So if you can make a dent in the housing problem, which you could do by the sort of backing local initiatives that I mentioned. If you can put some upward pressure on wages, right? We haven't raised the minimum wage since the 90s. It's still $7.25 federally, and that means New York has 15, right? But that means that you can drive over from Pennsylvania, right? Wouldn't it be nice if Pennsylvania was on an even playing field so there was some upward pressure in New York State? We can help out farmers, like first by revoking these tariffs and stopping the chaos in our trade policy. Mm-hmm. But also, did you know that the Farm Bill doesn't subsidize the growing of food? It doesn't. The things that you and I eat are called specialty crops, and they mostly don't get any help at all from the federal government. Around here in Lockport, we're growing like grapes and apples, right? Like food. Those people don't get all that much help. A good farm bill, we need a new farm bill anyway, we have for a while, can and should help those people out.
And Jim, what's good for the country is also good for this district?
Some of the same. I think I'd add things like a universal build out of high-speed internet for everybody.
Mm-hmm.
That's required for education. It's required for business. It's required. It's one of the economic drivers of business in the world, including farms. Okay, farming is essential in the 23rd district. But things like a big effort there in terms of build out for educational reasons. And the other is universal education, not just through high school, but through the equivalent of a couple of years of college. And that would include the trades, getting people into apprenticeship programs and internships for all of the trades. That should all be part of an education bill.
Thank you.
Is there anything else that anybody feels is a really pressing issue? Yes.
I just had a question about corruption. There's been so much corruption, and it's just surprising that more Americans aren't upset about really Congress or not doing anything about it. What things should they be doing to prevent, Trump from kind of profiting from his position and others as well?
How come we've become desensitized? There's another way of phrasing your question, I think. Because we see so much of it. If you repeat a lie often enough, somebody's going to believe it.
Is there anything Congress can do about it?
What can Congress do about it? And that goes back to requiring honesty. Any congressman who knowingly, transmits, either creates or transmits falsehoods can be held accountable for. That's a tough act when you think about the First Amendment, but we need a way to do that.
Yeah, so how do you feel about protests, and are they working? Either one of you.
Protests are like the most American thing there is. Mom, apple pie, and protest. America started with protest, right? The Boston Tea Party. I believe that they have put some steel in the spine of some legislators. I really do. I think we saw some Congress people, even on the Democratic side, that weren't speaking up as they should. We saw some journalists stand up, and some perhaps institutions like universities and law firms that were being pressured by the administration stand up in the wake of these protests.
But what do you think?
I think that yes, the answer to your question is yes, protests work because they provide awareness and they give the national media an opportunity to say that there are, and I think the national media has been cowed, by the way, for lots of reasons, but it gives the national media an excuse to put the alternatives out there in terms of what's going on.
You guys have a statement that we're going to wrap up in a minute, so
There's my question.
Melissa's got
I was just going to ask you one question. What do you see as being the biggest obstacle between today and Election Day in 2026?
This is everybody. This is Alyssa Hellman, candidate for the 24th district.
Hi.
And I want you to answer the question too. I think the biggest obstacle that we probably face is inertia. We need turnout, and this is a midterm election. Democrats are very motivated to vote. I think as motivated as they have been since 2018, and I think that the 2025 elections proved that in your district and ours. But will the independents come out? It's not a presidential year. Will people that live paycheck to paycheck bother to go vote? Like, that's the big challenge. That's what we have to convince people to do.
My biggest challenge is getting to the primary. I'm going to have to find 1,250 Republicans who are willing to sign a petition for me sometime next March, and that's the hard part.
Alyssa, what do you think?
I think the biggest obstacle between here and Election Day is meeting as many people as possible. I think the best thing that can happen for my campaign is that I meet every person in New York 24. And I also think the best thing that could happen for my campaign is that Claudia Tenney meets every person in New York.
We already know enough about her.
I was going to change that.